Hello, crafty friends. Welcome to my craft table. I have June's Stencil of the Month Club here on my desk. This one is called Summertime Graphics, and it's a fun one because you get more than one design in this set. These first 3 stencils create a beach ball design background, and then you have one that will create a cloudscape with either a moon or a sun. And it's really clever because you can just feed it through this stencil. It can be a landscape or a portrait style card. And then the second one will create blocks of color. And this one also has a moon that will fit right over it, or a sun. I'm going to be creating 2 cards with this kit in today's video. And let's start off with card number 1. Let's create a beach ball background. I have a piece of craft cardstock. It's called Dune. It's a really pale craft cardstock. And I'm starting out with some pale yellow ink. This one was just a little bit too pale for me. You can barely see it on the Dune cardstock. So I am going to come in with a darker yellow in just a minute. But these layer up very easily. I kind of have to look over it to get it to line up. So I'm sorry my head got in the way there. But I'll add some red next, and then I'll go back to a darker yellow. This red is Abandoned Coral, and it's a Distress Oxide ink. And the yellow I used, it was called Scattered Straw. I'm using the Distress Oxide inks because they sit on top of the paper and show up really nicely. I chose the Dune cardstock so that it would look like a sandy beach behind these beach balls. Here is stencil number 2. And it's hard to tell what they are because the yellow is so pale. But I'm going to put this one back on. This is stencil number 1 again. And I'm using mustard seed, which is a really bright, pretty yellow. And this makes all the difference for this background. The Dune cardstock really mutes the pattern. And I like that look, but if you wanted something brighter, of course, you might want to use a white cardstock for this. And now for the little circles on the beach balls. For this, I'm just going to use some white pigment ink. And this is going to be very subtle as well. A panel like this is great for showcasing your images. It won't be too busy or loud for your images, so it won't compete with your images. However, on my card, I'm just going to showcase some die-cut sentiments. It's about time for me to get a new pigment ink pad. I've had this for about 9 years now, and it's remained juicy, but I can tell that it's getting a little bit dry. Okay, so here is the finished panel. Let me peel it off my stencil mat. The sentiment is going to come from this month's Glimmer Hot Foil Club, called Summertime Sentiments. I'm using some bright orange foil to foil this, and this is a fun set because you can glimmer it all at once and then cut it out all at once. So I took it off camera to run it through my Platinum 6, and I'll show you how this turned out. I'll pick it up with my magnet tool, and I can pull off the orange foil. And it foiled up beautifully. I'm using some 80-pound white cardstock for this. Now to cut it out, I am going to tape it in place. Then they just pop out beautifully. And I have a bunch of sentiments ready to go for my cards. They say, "Hello, friend. There is nothing better than ice cream and you. Hope things are sunnier soon. May you enjoy your retirement to the fullest. Hope your day is relaxing as a walk on the beach. Time for another adventure, and it's time to make summer memories." I'm pulling in a really old die set to cut out a corner off of this panel. It's called Stitched Curved Borders and Ornaments. And this was the die of the month back from November of 2021. But I just like how this cuts out the corner off of this panel. I'm also pulling in another summer oldie but goodie. And it is called Have a Chill Summer. I'm going to use a sentiment out of this. I'll link these products if they're still available in the shop. So I'm going to put 3 different sentiments on this card, all summertime themed. I'm using the coordinating die to the sentiment that says, "Have a chill summer." And then I'll have the perfect little place to put this right on the bottom corner of this card. I'll back it with some tangerine orange cardstock. I love this tangerine cardstock. It's newer to the shop, but it's perfect for your summertime cards. I'm going to pop up my stenciled panel with some foam strips. And the sentiments I'm going to glue down flat. So it's going to say, "Hello, friend, have a chill summer, and hope your day is as relaxing as a walk on the beach." This will be perfect for a summertime birthday card. And I'm not going to let that little corner piece go to waste. I'm going to glue that down in the center of my card. I'll attach this to a top folding white card base, 120 pound. I'll add a few white enamel dots to this panel, but this is where I attach this cute corner piece on the inside of the card. The enamel dots I'm using are from Spellbinders as well, and they come in a pack of different sizes, which also includes some black enamel dots. But these kind of reminded me of the ends on those beach balls. I'll put 3 of these down. And then I'll give you a close-up of my first card. I love that scallopy edge to my stenciled panel. And now for card number 2. This one's going to be really fun. I'm going to incorporate 2 of the stencils for this panel. I'll use the curved stencil first, and I'm going to create a beach scene. So at the bottom is going to be the sandy beach. I put it on at an angle, and I'm using some very light brown ink for this. This ink is called Latte, and it's a positively saturated ink from Simon Says Stamp. I'm going to put down plenty of this ink to make it nice and saturated. Clean off my stencil. And I like to bend the stencil mat so that I don't bend my cardstock. And then the next layer is going to be the ocean. And I'm going to leave just a slight narrow margin of white cardstock showing through to indicate the foam on the water that comes up onto the beach. I'll use a small piece of mint tape over that opening so that I don't accidentally get some blue ink on the sandy beach. And then I'm going to use Tide Pool first. And then I'm going to come in with a darker ink called Ocean. But before I add this darker ink, I'm going to move the stencil up. And I'll create a border for the top of the ocean. But again, I'm going to clean off my stencil. I don't want to get any of the blue ink where I don't want it to be. And this time I'm going to straighten out the stencil so that you just see kind of a soft curve of the beach. And then I'll have a nice level horizon line. So again, I'm going to protect the top of the white cardstock. And I'll put down this darker blue ink, kind of blend these 2 blues together. This is a piece of 120 pound cardstock that I'm using for this stencil. I'll bring in the brush that had the lighter ink on it, just blend the 2 together. And now for the last stencil from this set, I'm going to bring in the Cloudy Sky stencil. So I'm starting at the bottom, and I brought in some different inks for this. Again, I'm going to put some tape over the opening so I don't get the sky ink where I don't want it to be. And I'll start off with some bubblegum pink ink. It's going to be a very colorful sky. I'll speed this up for the sake of time, and then I can pull off the stencil, and I'm going to put the previous stencil back on to cover up my ocean so that I don't get any pink ink on that. And I'll add a little bit of the pink ink to the bottom of the cloud so it doesn't look so stark white. I'm going to work on the sunshine next, and it tucks in perfectly into the cloud scene. So I'm using some yellow ink. This one is called Sunbeam. Get it nice and dark. Then I'll use some orange ink. And this one is called Grapefruit. I'm just going in at the right side. I'm not going to cover up the whole thing, just adding a little bit of shading to the sun. This will give it some depth. And then I can show you how nicely this just tucks into the clouds. It looks like it's behind the clouds. It's such a fun stencil. Again, I'll bend my stencil mat and take off the stencil. And look how cute that looks. Okay, so I'll continue my cloudscape. I'm going to put a piece of cardstock over the sun. I just cut that out with a circle die. Tape that down so it doesn't shift. And then I'm going to continue on with some blue ink. I'll do one more layer with the blue. And I believe this blue ink pad I'm using is called Marine, a different blue from the ocean. I'm just building up the color because it is such a pale blue. Here is my panel. I'm loving how this is turning out, but I wanted to add a little more sea foam along the water and sand line. This is where I left a little bit of white cardstock showing through between the sand and the water. I'm using some splatter white opaque watercolor from Spellbinders. This is the first time I've used it. I've had it in my stash for ages. I'm using a watercolor brush just to kind of add some little flouncy looking, lacy looking foam. I'm going over the sand and the water with this, and then I'll allow this to dry. But I love the look that that gives. For my sentiment, I'm going to be using another old set from Spellbinders. This was the Clear Stamp and Die month of the club from June of last year. And it's called What Are You Up To? The sentiment is going to say, what are you up to? And I'm going to stamp it right out onto the sand, as well as some of the seashells from this cute little stamp set. Next, I'm going to pull out some Copic markers, some brown Copic markers, and add a few little speckles here and there to make the brown ink look more like sand. Just a few dots here and there. I'm going to add some Capri Blue gems. This panel. This color is new to the shop, and they have a bunch of new colors that are just gorgeous. This matches really well with my water. I'm going to add 3 kind of around my sentiment. I colored in the shells with some Copic markers as well, just very pale colors. I'm going to pull out my glitter pen and go over the sun with it. So this is a 1-layer card. It's going to be very easy to mail out, but it's just so pretty and fun to look at with all of the different ink layers. So again, the stencil of the month is called Summertime Graphics, and I'll have links to everything that I used listed in the description box if you'd like to check them out. If you've enjoyed this card tutorial, please like and subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful crafty day. Bye!